everyone, and welcome to this session. My name is Jan Rauhut. I'm the Global Head of Mobility at Bayer AG, and it is my pleasure to share insights with you into our global category strategy for fleet. I know the program states that I'm going to be joined by two of my colleagues, but unfortunately, due to technical issues, I'm the only one presenting today. Nevertheless, I would like to introduce to you Rainer Haug and Mario Moses, two of my global category managers in mobility. And the three of us, we are happy to connect with you if you have further questions after the presentation. For the presentation today, we thought about four major chapters we would like to present, starting off with a short introduction of Bayer AG and setting a little bit the context in which we found ourselves in the last 2 years and which substantially colored in the way we set up our category strategy. And then continuing with a deep dive into the setup of our international fleet and selected focus topics around our strategy. Continuing with a deep dive into our performance indicators and implementation achievements of the last 18 months, and then concluding with a short outlook into our future projects. Let's get started. Bayer AG, a life science company consisting out of three major divisions. On the one side, the crop science division, providing chemical and biological crop protection products, seeds and traits. And with the acquisition of Monsanto, we were able to maintain our role as one of the market leaders when it comes to digital technologies and services. The pharmaceutical division providing prescriptive medicine for various medical areas, where the consumer health division providing the non-prescriptive part of medicine and products such as aspirin or Bepanthen might be the most known products on the market. In 2020, we had a full year sales volume of 41.4 billion euros with roughly 100,000 employees worldwide. And research and development being of utmost importance for a life science company as ours, we invested a little bit less than 10% of our sales volume into developing our pipeline or acquiring innovative solutions from the market. At Bayer, we firmly believe in being a science-based company. So therefore, we are guided by our purpose, science for a better life, and striving for our vision, health for all, hunger for none. You will see that this vision is deeply embedded in our group strategy, where we strive to shape ourselves as a leader for world-class innovation and generating sustainable, tangible impact. At the same time, as a company, we drive operational performance and efficiency. You will see that this vision is deeply embedded in our business strategies as well. And let me just highlight two initiatives here. The Crop Science Division pledged itself to empower 100 million smallholder farmers in developing countries by providing access to agronomic knowledge, services, and products by 2030. While the Pharmaceuticals Division pledged itself to provide access to modern contraception for 100 million women in low and middle income countries by investing 400 million euros till 2030. Such a vision and those ambitions raise the question, how can we as a corporate function, how can we as procurement support and enable the business to achieve those? And this question is the perfect segue to our transformation project that we kicked off in 2019 and asking ourselves, how do we have to redefine the way we understand and we practice procurement? Starting off with a new understanding of functional leadership, where in the past, functional excellence was always the driving force, and now we shift to cost-effective support of the business, including an acceleration of the decision-making process, where in the past, we tend to go through all the levels in our hierarchy in order to make certain procurement decisions. Now we shift to empowering our people to make their own procurement decision on the adequate level in our organization. As such, a transformation project comes along with ambitious efficiency and FTE reduction targets, we as procurement had to ask ourselves, what's going to be the core activities of procurement in the future? What kind of scope, what kind of depth in the activities we want to provide to the organization, and at the same time, what activities do we want to externalize, be it to a shared service center organization or be it to an external partner? No matter how you answer those questions around functional leadership and activity reduction, the elephant in the room will always be who is responsible, who is accountable. And again, in the past, we had a rather complex setup of interfaces and teams being involved in the procurement decision-making process. Now we shifted to assigning a clear end-to-end accountability to a clearly selected team or organization within procurement, driving and leading the decision-making process. Those are the three major pillars of our future target, our operating model in procurement. And let me now show you how we translated that into fleet by starting off with a short introduction of our fleet. As said, how can we as procurement support and enable the business to achieve their targets being of utmost importance? And out of that understanding, we derived our mission statement: ensure guaranteed mobility to avoid loss in productivity and efficiency. You can now ask the question, why is not sustainability here explicitly mentioned? Sustainability already being part of our overall procurement mission statement and clearly underlining that sustainability is deeply embedded in all the things we do. So our mission statement on the left-hand side refers to a fleet of 27,000 cars in 94 countries. 40% of those cars being requested in Europe, 70% of those cars being requested by our Salesforce organization. And if you remind yourself of the structure of Bayer having agricultural business on the one side and having farmer and consumer health business on the other side, it doesn't come as a surprise that the technical requirements and the expectation and sometimes even the perception that we want to create for our clients and customers couldn't be more different from each other. And this just adds to the complexity of managing 27,000 cars. Coming back to one of the major pillars of the target operating model of procurement around accountability, procurement mobility now assigned with an end-to-end accountability, owning the strategy, owning the decision on the approach in a given country, be it leasing, be it purchasing, owning the decision on the supplier portfolio and supplier management, as well as for the leasing providers, as well as for the OEMs. And in all fleet-related matters, we have a global mandate for decision-making, even on country level. And just briefly mentioning sustainability here, of course, being one of our core decision-making criteria. And we have a clear ambition to be fully electrified by 2030. And our current starting point is 10% share of our fleet being already full electric or in hybrid state. The following slide, I would like to take you back to 2019 and explain a little bit our transformation journey and how we embedded that in our strategy. In 2019, we found ourselves in a situation managing 96 countries with their own procurement footprint, managing 246 legal entities with their own process standards and reporting landscapes. And we as a category team, we managed more than 20 approved OEMs and more than 25 leasing companies worldwide. And now with the efficiency and with the FTE reduction and financial targets on the table, it was clear we have to change fundamentally. So we started off by asking ourselves, how can we simplify our category? And with the financial targets at hand, we decided shifting from a buying approach to a leasing, full service leasing approach. And with that, it came along a preferred supplier concept for leasing companies and OEMs. And we even translated that into a country-specific approach where you now find one leasing provider per country and a clearly defined, streamlined set of OEMs you can choose from for your company or Salesforce car. And as said, when talking about the pillars of the target operating model, we had to decide what activities do we externalize. Externalize to a shared service center organization, which had newly to be set up, externalized to an external partner, which was newly selected, and all of them had to be trained, had to be onboarded, had to be integrated into operations in order to free up capacity that we invested into strategic topics around category management. I come to that in a second. And as said, 246 legal entities with their own process standards and their own reporting landscape had to be harmonized, had to be brought to a global standard in order to make it manageable and in order to make it executable by a shared service center organization or an external partner. And we managed those expectations and those targets while we were transforming the organization and while we were transforming our own category. And as said at the beginning as well, empowerment of our people being one of the key levers as well. So we raised thresholds for self-buying approaches, and we rather focused on providing a clear framework in which our colleagues could make their own procurement decisions. And of course, having then an end-to-end accountability and having such a global mandate at hand to make decisions even on country level substantially supported us in driving our strategy and implementing it. Although we had to deal with a heavily reduced team setup when we compare 2019 to the setup we have today. Having a short look into the targets that we achieved then within 2 years. We now have a harmonized global process landscape, clearly defined global process standards. We have a preferred supplier setup in place for the leasing providers and for the OEMs, and heavily reduced the number of suppliers that we manage. And at the same time, using the capacities that we freed up with the externalization and invested that in an intensified supplier management approach. Activity reduction, accelerated decision-making processes, and a substantial increase in our process automations are additional targets we achieved within 2 years. Again, a segue into our KPIs. As said, we had financial targets, transformation-related targets, and sustainability targets as of this year. So we were able, with a shift from buying to leasing, we were able to contribute to our savings targets and weighted average terms. The transformation targets, we focused on 3: bringing down the number of suppliers we work with and that we manage, and we were able to reduce those by 85%. Ensuring that at the same time, our colleagues making their own procurement decision stick with the preferred suppliers that we choose in the framework that we give to our colleagues. And here we maintain a preferred supplier usage level of 70%. And from a process point of view, to monitor that the global process standards are applied to and comply with. So we now have a purchase order automation rate increased from 25 to over 90% worldwide. When it comes to sustainability, as said, right now our starting point is roughly around 10% of our fleet being already fully electrified or hybrid. And we have clear CO2 reduction targets for 2029. And right now we find ourselves in the situation to define our roadmap in order to achieve those targets in 2029. Which of course comes along with the question, what kind of infrastructure we require in order to operate an electrified fleet. So we set a proper and trust-based foundation with our suppliers, and we finalized the transformation and transition of procurement in 21. And now we prepare ourselves for change while we ensure business continuity, but we have to prepare for the global fleet electrification as being the most important topic in the next 2 or 3 years ahead of us, as well as proactive fleet management. You see that as next milestone, we selected 2025, which is just in the middle between where we find ourselves today and 2029, where we have clear CO2 reductions to achieve. And in 2025, Bayer needs to have a proper and sufficient understanding of what kind of infrastructure do we need, what kind of charging solutions are available and suitable for Bayer. And of course, but this is subject to the market conditions that we're going to find ourselves in the future, we need to accelerate towards a sustainable fleet. You find here topics such as mobility on demand and digitalization of fleet services being already most important topics right now, but coming out of the transformation and transition, maybe it's rightful to say we neglected those a little bit, but you see we clearly have them on our agenda, but maybe not with the priority that some of you in other organizations are following along on those topics. So a strategy is as good as its execution, and I truly believe in that. And we have our strategy, we have, based on our KPIs, we have mastered our implementation of the concept. But one core challenge remains, and will be one of the most important questions we have to ask ourselves right now and in the next years. And this is around change management. How do I convince my colleagues to go from their current ICE car to a car which is maybe perceived as downsized, right-sized, standardized, but definitely sustainable and electrified? This will be the decision factor on whether the strategy we have in place and the implementation we have run so far is actually a success, because it creates the tangible and sustainable impact that we strive for. And the answer to that questions we are very much looking forward to derive and develop together with our trusted partners, be it on the leasing provider and on the OEM sides. And I'm very much look forward to occasions and panels like this, where we are able to exchange on the ideas that we have, to be inspired by you, to be challenged by you, and maybe even pushed into a different direction, as I think today. So with that, I would like to say thank you for your attention and thank you for your participation. Very much look forward to connect with you. For that, have a fantastic rest of your day.